Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. This is our Wednesday evening Under the Radar podcast. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood, joined on one side here by the puppet David Griggs, down below by
Woohoo!
David Dorman. Uh, Recorded here live on tape delay on the evening of January 5th, a little almost 9:30 p.m. We got started late because there were just too many damn good games on tonight.
Yeah,
But
drummers drumming
uh,
today, guys. 12th day of Christmas.
is it?
So it is.
Oh, okay. For me,
Yeah.
Christmas ended about 2 weeks ago, but
Yeah. Well, for most people, Christmas ends on the 26th, but this was when the big 12th night party is. Of course, I
okay.
party like that every night, but
What we're doing under the radar, Griggs? Why don't you tell people what under the radar is? If they don't know.
okay. Well,
Maybe
it's
they
got
do know.
nothing to do with Christmas. It's
Okay.
anyway, in Christmas is over. It's essentially, in short, the 22 regular one bid leagues. There's no rule that says that these teams can't get more than one bid. Every year, we see a few teams from these leagues get inside the bubble, and a couple of them get two leagues. But that's basically what it is. It it is not the power conferences, which are the ACC, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and Pac 12, nor is it the five other regular multi-bid leagues, which is the Big East, the A10, the American, the Mountain West, usually anyways, and the West Coast Conference. It's everybody else. The other disqualifier, and we don't have anyone there yet, is a team that's in the top 25. Loyola Chicago getting pretty close. I think Iona's been getting closer and closer. So if those teams crack the top 25 in either the AP or coaches poll, we wouldn't be talking about them on this show. But until they do, we do.
Well, that's right. And what we like to do with this show is go through all of these 22 leagues in alphabetical order. Other than we like to start with a feature conference, and we switch it up every week. And I like to surprise you guys because I pick our feature conference about 3 minutes before we start the show, which was
Okay.
half an hour after we were supposed to start tonight. But
Yeah.
it was a tough call for this week, actually, because there's so many games that have been canceled, so many games have been postponed with everything going on with COVID, that a lot of these conferences had very little action. Until I found the perfect conference for tonight, I really think I did because not of what they did over the past week, as we pull them up here, because of what's going to be coming up over the next few days. Our feature conference for the evening should be on the screen right now is the Southland Conference.
Oh,
Uh,
good call.
and
Okay.
now
Woo!
again, look at what they did this week. They had 5 wins against non-D1 teams. It's not because of that. It's
Yeah.
because let me go to a different screen of what's going to start tomorrow. There it is, the Southland Conference
In
in-season 2022 conference tournament. Did I get that right,
uh,
Griggs?
yes, you did. This is innovated. It has never been done before. Our friend Tom Burnett, the did I say that right? The Southland Commissioner, who's also the chairman of the committee. I don't know if he was the mastermind behind this or not, but I love this. It's an in-season conference tournament. The idea is that, like the Ivy League, they only have 8 teams. Unlike the Ivy League, they were having trouble getting enough games together and putting together full out-of-conference schedules. So to help out with scheduling, they just decided to add 3 games essentially to the conference slate and play an in-game bracketed conference tournament.
Right. These games will not count towards conference standings. They obviously will count
Correct.
towards the overall standings. Uh, but Dorman, let me ask you, who's going to win this thing? It starts tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central. It's noon Eastern. Every game is going to be on ESPN Plus.
I'll be watching. I like Nichols. I've seen him play a few times this year. They're tough. They defend. They got a nice a team. They play a lot of. It's a lot of wings, a lot of guards, a lot of dribbling. But they move the ball well. They're well coached, and when they're on defense, they really get down to it. I like Nichols to win this one.
I like them to win the first game. So going through this, it's kind of interesting. That would be Sela, Southeastern. That's Southeast Louisiana, I think.
Yep.
Houston Baptist, New Orleans, McNeese. Those are pretty straightforward. Corpus Christi, and that's Incarnate Word at the bottom there. If for whatever reason you're watching us for the first time, and if you are, welcome. But where the hell have you been? Um, I like this Corpus Christi team a lot. They just seem like they've done so much more than everybody else in the league. Nichols has had their moments too. It's just kind of interesting that would be the semifinal game if I read that bracket right.
Right. I mean, the bracket was set before the season even started. Corpus Christi's actually outperformed expectations. Um,
Yes.
so that's they. I think they did try to go for some balance here, but I don't think they expected Corpus Christi to be quite as good as they
Yeah.
have been. But there you see the overall record. Corpus Christi with 7 D1 wins, most of anybody in this conference.
Yeah, and some good efforts in some of those losses too. Um, but anyway, you mentioned exceeding all expectations, and then you have teams like Incarnate Word and Houston Baptist that have met their expectations.
Yeah, Northwestern State
And
without
just
a D1 win
yeah,
yet.
Yeah.
Also, go ahead, Dorman.
and just to bolster my Nichols play there to win this, they've really challenged themselves. They played Baylor. They beat Northern Iowa. I believe that was the season opener for
It
both teams.
was. Yeah.
They played TCU. So I know they have a bunch of losses, but they really tested themselves. So I think they're real prepared for this tournament the next 3 days, and I think Nichols can put a good performance together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do we
I
have
have
the
looked at.
possibility of where is it a Northwestern State and Incarnate Word? No, it would not even be the 7th place game. One of those teams is going to finish at least 6th.
Yes, that is going to be an absolutely awful consolation semifinal Friday at 1:30 against Central Time, 2:30.
Yeah.
But a great semifinal, 8:30 Eastern on Friday night if we get that
Nichols
Northwestern.
Northwestern
I'm
State.
sorry, the Nichols Corpus Christi game.
Yeah.
Uh, but
I'm genuinely
let's.
excited about this event, and I just hope it comes off because COVID's ruined everything else. It better not ruin my in-season Southland tournament.
Yeah,
I don't have
unfortunately,
much going on in my life to look forward to, but I have this.
the women were going to be playing this at an event, same type of event as well. It was supposed to be ending tonight, Wednesday night. They actually had to cancel the women's event due to COVID issues. But uh, the word is that they put some enforced protocols in, got all the teams there already, and as of 9:30 p.m. Eastern, at least on Wednesday night here, the event is good to go. So we'll keep our fingers
Yes.
crossed.
Oh,
Let's go through the
that's
rest of the
awesome.
conferences. Let's
Yes.
go all the way back to the America East to begin with, which had an astounding 3 games. Again, we're going to see so few games in some of these leagues here that are going through shutdowns. A couple league conference games. NJIT and Binghamton tied for the conference lead right now, both 1-0. I'm just trying to find out what else to say here. Dorman, got anything else on this conference? I'll put the upcoming schedule.
I'll be real quick. Vermont, to me, coming into the season a couple months ago, was the class of the league. I have no reason to change my mind at this point. They were supposed to be on national TV tonight. Unfortunately, that got canceled. But I look for Vermont to take this bid come March.
Yeah, I'm going to be showing upcoming schedules on the screens here. Take them all with a grain of salt. These are games that were scheduled. A lot of these games have gone off. There may be a few games that get put in here, so I'm not going to spend too much time as we do in most weeks going through upcoming schedules because we just don't really know if they're going to happen.
No. Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, God,
Griggs, the A Sun.
Yes.
Where we've seen the start of some conference play last night, even tonight, Gulf Coast beating North Florida. And maybe congrats to Central Arkansas when their first ever A-Sun conference game picks up a win.
Yeah, good for them. And but Gulf Coast and Liberty seem to be the 2 teams that are kind of ahead of everyone else. I know we've liked Lipscomb for a little bit, but they seem to have digressed somewhat. No real surprise beating North Florida if you're Gulf Coast. I kind of like for this to be a 2-horse race, but it's kind of, I'm not a fan of divisions, but if you're going to have them, it's kind of fun having the 2 best teams in the same division, really, because they kind of get, it's more of a head-to-head battle feel to it.
Yeah, I think they are the first top 2. I would argue that Lipscomb and Jacksonville State are probably 3 and 4, so we get the 3rd and 4th best teams in the other division at least. So
Yeah.
there's somewhat of a balance there, but not quite the best balance.
A little bit. Are you a little bit surprised at how poorly Eastern Kentucky has played this year with all that they seem to have coming back after a pretty good year a year ago?
I wasn't as maybe I wasn't as high on them coming into the season as you were, but losing at home to
Yeah.
Central Arkansas. Central Arkansas, new to the conference, but they were awful in the South
Yeah,
last
they
year.
were terrible.
I did not expect anything from them, and they only have two D1 wins. One of them being the win at Eastern Kentucky
Yeah.
last night. So not
No.
not a good start for EKU in this league. I agree with you
No.
there. Dorman, the Big Sky Conference. Again, let's look at all these multiple games. We had a few games because we've got some in last Thursday and getting on Monday. But Northern Colorado after the surprising first 3-0 start here in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put together a nice little run here. They're doing it really on the defensive end, as far as I can see. A little disappointed in Weber State just a few weeks ago. I was ranking them. I was high on our under the radar teams, and a little slip slide here. So interested to see if Weber State can get back in the conversation and get back to the top of this conference. I do believe they have Northern Colorado coming up in a few weeks. That should be a good game. This team, this conference, the Big Sky, wide open in my opinion.
Yeah, about Weber, I want to say they got off to an 8-0, 9-0 start. And they've lost 5 games since then. And some of them were completely understandable. They did have to lift some heavy weight or attempted to out of conference, but the loss to Montana was a bit surprising.
Yeah, Montana. I think Montana is going to be in the top half of this conference at least. But but
example, I thought Weber was a lot better than everybody else. How about Northern Colorado? I mean, Southern Utah, another team we had been singing the praises of. Northern Colorado going there and beating them.
Yeah, so then that's what I'm saying. Northern Colorado, not a team we've discussed much. Maybe a team we're going to be discussing a lot more as we go through conference play here. And that's one of the things with these leagues is when you get into conference play, you kind of can throw away no matter how awful you were in the non-conference. This is your chance to wipe the slate clean, especially in these leagues, which are
and sometimes those interconference matchups, like you have Northern Colorado from the Front Range and Southern Utah from the Beehive. You just never know what to expect in those out-of-conference games.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to update the standings of those leagues at the end of the show here, I think, as well. It's for mythical conferences we love to follow.
Yeah, the mythical out-of-conference games.
Mythical out-of-conference games. Griggs, let me stick with you over the Big South Conference. North Carolina A&T after the big 1-0 starting conference play with a huge win over Presby tonight.
Yeah, very liberal use of the word huge there, but Presby had been playing a little bit better than what I thought they were. I mean, they hustle, they play aggressive defense. I don't want to completely dismiss this win, but it was a surprise. I just wasn't expecting much at all out of A&T. I kind of thought Presby was a little better than what we're used to seeing, but nice win for A&T.
I actually tell you, the Dorman, the win that was impressive today was UNC Asheville went to Campbell for their conference opener. Picked up a real nice road win over a Campbell team we thought would win this conference.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I was picking Campbell just a few weeks ago, but after the night and watching the last few weeks, I'm on UNC Asheville. They're playing good ball. This conference they can easily win this not easily, but this conference can be theirs if they continue to play this way. And this is always one of my favorite conference tournaments come March. The Big South is always exciting and a lot of good teams, great coaches.
And I think the conference tournament they are. I think they're giving the 2 division champions the top 2 seeds, but ignoring divisions after that. I believe that's the format for the Big South. We can double check on that. So
we have them all up there.
If you want to confirm that, go up there to the conference tournament tab. Prove that I was just wrong. The upcoming schedule of the Big South again. I'll throw the games up on the screen here. Who knows what's going to actually happen? I know. For Longwood, for example, I believe just went into it. No, High Point just went into a shutdown, so I think Longwood is that High Point Longwood game. I think is off for Saturday, among other games that I've heard is. So yeah, we talked about it Monday night. I don't think we need to talk about it too much, but Dorman, let me stick with you here for the Big West Conference. With that first place UC San Diego team, they got 2 games in. Nobody else did, and they are 2-0. So let's end the season and give them the auto bid, despite being ineligible, right?
I'm impressed with this team. It's their first year in Division I basketball, if I'm correct, right, David?
Second. They last year was their first transitional year, but they barely played. They played I think 10 games or something
Yeah.
with COVID.
Gotcha. They're doing a really good job. It is tough to transition to major D1 basketball, and the Big West plays good basketball. There's a lot of good teams out west in this conference, and to start your Division I career record 8-5 and then 2-0 in the Big West, I give them a lot of credit. That's a nice job out there by UC San Diego.
Now,
Yeah.
2-0, 2-0, one of those wins be over a Santa Barbara team that we like to
Yes.
win this conference. Yeah.
What has happened? And again, I'm hesitant to jump on anybody and be critical. In a vacuum, that's kind of a ridiculous loss. And you say the Gauchos are falling way, way short of expectations. But I don't know what their COVID situation is from week to week. Like, we pay pretty close attention to everything, but who's inactive on all 358 schedules is just too hard to keep up with. Like, have they been hit with COVID so far as you Rocco?
I think when we get to the end of the season, strange losses that we see by teams in this late December through January period that we're going into are going to be taken with a bit of a grain of salt because there have been so many teams with so many top players out. So, but on the end of the day, the committee, the very first thing the committee does have to do is look at who you beat. Start and what games you won, what games you lost. Then you can look for the excuses afterwards. And if you don't get enough wins, obviously you don't get into the at-large bid conversation. If you can't get enough conference wins, you can't get a good seed in the conference tournament. You can't make that run to the finals.
And one of the things, just to stay, there are some really potentially dangerous teams in this league. I don't think anybody can get inside the bubble, but the Gauchos are good. The Eaters are good. But they haven't been able to play. God, this is just sort of ruining everything.
Yeah. This conference has been hit really hard. We'll see what happens with San Diego. They would have a real interesting stretch here with games at Riverside and games at Irvine coming up in the next week, but I don't know what the status of those games are, quite honestly, at this point. Riggs, let me stick with you. Jump over to the Colonial, where we've got an amazing story this week of what happened over the first two games of the conference play here.
Okay, so I believe that it's not up on the screen there. I think that it happened the night of or the night after our last Under the Radar. William and Mary knocking
pull
off.
them up here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So William and Mary knocked off Hofstra, and we mentioned this in the write-up. We should have we didn't mention it on the Hoops HD report, but it was the biggest upset of the year by far. It might be one of the biggest upsets in the last 10 years. In the net, the two teams are, I don't know what it is, but the day after the game, they were still 251 spots apart, which meant the day before the game, they were even further apart than that. I do not recall an upset of that caliber as far as how far apart the two teams were. We've seen top 10 teams lose to teams in the 200s occasionally, but this was a team in the 340s beating a top 50 team.
Yeah, Hofstra now down to 100 after that loss, but this is the current.
Yeah.
But William Mary follows that up with a win over a Northeastern team that we thought heading into the season would contend to this conference too. 2-0 now. I think a couple of weeks ago, Dorman, we were actually talking about this William Mary team. We kind of said, well, there's 9 teams in this conference that have a shot to win it, and William and Mary.
I think we actually said that.
Now we might have 10 teams in this to win it. Yeah. Incredible just to get your team ready and focused and ready and up for that game, and let alone go in there and win it. Incredible job. What's interesting with this conference, if I have this right, James Madison is not going to, the Colonial is not going to allow him to play in the conference tournament. Yeah. But David, aren't they eligible for an at-large?
Yes,
they are. I don't. They're 133 in the net right now. I get it, and they've been. They only have 11 games, but 130. How do you wake up 133 in the net by playing these teams?
If they win out,
Virginia, win out.
Anything
Virginia,
short of that, probably won't be enough. But if they win out, they're going to be. Well, if they win out, they'll be a first place team and they'll be on the board through a technicality. But I think that it won't just be a formality. I think they'll stay up there for a long time and maybe get selected if they win out. But the
Yeah.
question is, that's far easier said than done.
They
But
need
yeah,
they need Virginia to be strong in the ACC. They
yeah,
need Virginia in the tournament.
They need
and
Virginia to
there
be.
is some.
They need Eastern Kentucky to be better. They need Wright State to be better. They need Radford to be better.
Yeah,
I think they need. Uh, I think they need too much. Now, again, if they win literally every single game that's
yes,
remaining, they go undefeated in conference play, and not an 0-0 undefeated because they don't get another game in, but a real, 18-0.
yeah. I think that
I'll
would. I
talk
think the
about it.
committee would take them. Yeah.
No,
Can we
I think
look
the
at?
committee would. I think the committee would talk about them. That's it.
Yeah.
If they make it in, they're a first four team in that case. That's
Okay.
where I'm at with them.
Let's look at it because the profile is so interesting. Can we look at Hofstra really quick, Chad?
Sure,
I
I'll
know
put
we,
them up
we got
over
a
here
lot to
with
get
William
to,
Mary
but like
Hampton.
we mentioned them earlier. This was a team that came out. They lifted a lot of weight here. I wanted to say that but they had the win at Monmouth. They did beat Arkansas. Since both those
Uh,
teams have kind of nosedived a little bit. But the other thing that made the William and Mary loss so perplexing was that they had won 6 out of 7, had won 2 really big games, or so it seemed at the time in that stretch. Um,
I'm not there. I mean, but Hofstra now. I think I think Monmouth win is still a solid, very good win, especially if you're rolling. But Arkansas is proving to have been a fraud. So
yeah,
that Arkansas might be a tier 3 by the end of the day. So,
yeah. Well, the
but
one thing
let's
is, William and Mary is so bad that it may be so far at the bottom of the page of the profile that the committee just doesn't see it.
Dorman. How about Conference USA? Uh, where UAB picks up wins over UTEP and Texas San Antonio. Not
Good.
really the home wins, but it gives them that 2-0 conference start.
UAB is really good. We'll see on my ballot later. They'll pop high on under the radar teams. They are, when I did my bracket, even without the conference, the auto bid, I have them right on still in the tournament. I really like what UAB is doing. There's not a lot of teams in this conference that pick up some solid wins. That'll be their biggest problem. But UAB is, in my opinion, far and away the best team in the USA.
There's a couple of, I don't know about you're not talking, there's no wins to be had that scream protected seed, but
No.
La Tech is going to win a lot at home. They're 9-0 at home. Western
Yes.
Kentucky also very good at home. A team that you got to watch is North Texas. Thanks for pulling that up there, Chad, because when you look at this profile, at Wichita State, that is a great win.
I think this North Texas profile right now is very similar to the UAB and very similar to the La Tech profile. It's going to be fun when these teams play each other. They should all play each other twice because they're all in the same division here.
Yeah.
Go back to the standings.
So, I mean, if you're talking, they did kind of lose a bit of a head scratcher. They lost to Buffalo at home. But when you're talking about games at Louisiana Tech and at North Texas, one of the things the committee, and they've told us this specifically on podcasts that we've had over the years, they look, how hard is it, not just who did you beat, but how hard was it to win the games that you won? It's hard to win at La Tech. It's hard to win at North Texas. If UAB can get both of those, I think that the committee is going to seriously look at them as an at-large caliber team.
Technically on the schedule for tomorrow night is UAB at North Texas, and not sure if the game's a go or not, but that's one of those games to circle. Whenever it gets played in this conference, it's going to be one of those games to definitely circle.
As of right now, it's on.
It is on. Wow, that's a rarity. Griggs, over in the Horizon League, where we're actually getting games played amazingly. One of the few conferences where seems to be in a lot of games. And
Ohio is just like, screw it. We give up. There is no COVID.
Cleveland State and Oakland after 4-0 starts, and I'm still very high in this Oakland team, though.
I am too. And I just kind of think that this is a 2-horse race. A team that is a talking point, I don't think a threat to win the league, but Wright State, who was atrocious up until about 2 weeks ago, they go to NC State, win by double digits. And since then, they've been on fire. Perhaps, and it wasn't like they progressed and got better. It's that they stunk on Wednesday, and then Thursday morning, they were awesome. What happened?
Well, I think we like this Red State team coming better into the season, so it doesn't surprise me that they've finally woken up. But they got they got Milwaukee and Green Bay as their first two conference games also. That's and they're
Yeah.
both at home. So let's start
Yeah.
getting into the meat of the conference schedule.
Yeah. But I like Cleveland State and Oakland. I think either one of them are dangerous teams in the round of 64 if one of those teams ends up getting the bid. And this conference, as you know, is playing a 68 game conference schedule format.
22 games. I've never seen 22 games before this season in the horizon, but we will have 22 conference games. That's maybe another reason why we've got so many conference games out of the way here
Yeah.
already. Dorman, over in the Ivy League, where we saw for the first time in what is it, almost 2 years, a
2 years.
games played in the Ivy League. Cornell beat Dartmouth and Penn beat Brown on Sunday.
This should be a tight race the whole way through. There are some solid teams in the Ivy. I think Princeton will be there. They haven't played in the conference game yet. But Cornell, Penn, Princeton, and I had high hopes for Yale coming in. It hasn't really panned out yet. But Tommy Amaker's also doing a nice job at Harvard. I am really excited. I believe the Ivy's still going to go with the 4-team March conference tournament, and I think it's gonna be great basketball, really exciting.
Oh, it always is.
And that tournament
fun.
will be at Harvard, so something to keep in mind. If Harvard, very dangerous even if they just finish at fourth place in this conference, will be dangerous to win that auto bid. Regular Ivy League Friday Saturday play is scheduled to start this week. We'll see. I'm hearing a couple teams are already having problems in this conference with COVID, but we'll see. We'll see. Griggs, Metro Atlantic Conference, where we've got two very good teams at the top here, and we got 2 games in this week. So congratulations.
Yeah, Iona really sweating out a Marist team that's just not. we talk about Iona being a top 40 team. No votes in the coaches poll yet, but very good. And then Merit. I was really surprised that they struggled as much as they did. But when you look at Iona and Monmouth, and I know that you're pulling them both up here, there's a lot of good. That win against Alabama, still looking really good. No dead weight losses at all. That's, Kansas and Belmont. One of the games that got canceled that really could have blew Iona through the roof was that Seton Hall game. I don't know if they had it in them to beat Seton Hall, but it was certainly a huge opportunity lost. I like this Monmouth resume as well, particularly just the sheer number of road wins. Not all of them are fantastic, but a lot of them are good enough. And that Cincinnati win, losing a little bit if it's sparkle, but still 7 road wins, 7 true road wins. I don't know if anybody else in the country has that many. I'd venture to say that no one does.
I'm going to tell you one thing about the Iona Marist game. I know it was a 3-point win. First of all, this is a much improved Marist team under John Dunn. He's done an amazing job there.
Yeah, he has.
And the second thing is, this was actually the second time the two teams already played this season. They played December 1st as well. So you're playing a team that's already seen what you have once, and that makes things a little bit more difficult, I think, as well. Yeah. The fact is that they got the win.
They did get the win.
At the end of the day, it's a W on the team sheet. It's not going to look like much more. Team up to 11-2 now. Here's the schedule. I think there's a lot of games going off in this conference as well, from what I've heard. So,
and that Iona Monmouth, that one really big if they get it in.
If they get it in, that's a huge game actually. Dorman Mid-American Conference, where we've got some teams that play 3 games, some teams that play 0 games, but. Ohio 2-0. Is that where we want to go?
That's where I want to go. Ohio showed the nation last year. They were really solid, and they might even be better this year. I really like this team. They could win 2 games. They could be a second weekend team come March. They're playing really good ball. They lost LSU and Kentucky, but on the road. Those are the only 2 losses they have. Everything else, they've been stacking up wins. I think Belmont has a really good team this year, and they beat them. I saw that game, and that was it was close and stuff, but Ohio handled them. And look out, you power conference guys do not want to be in Ohio's bracket. They are dangerous.
If they
Yeah,
get there, let me throw this in here though, Griggs, real quick. If they
yeah,
get there, because they're going to have one, maybe two wins in the top two tiers, and probably nothing in the top tier in terms of wins at the end of the day. They got to win this auto bid still, short of doing something like what we're talking with James Madison, literally go undefeated. And I don't think you can go undefeated in this Mid American Conference. You got teams like this Toledo team I pulled up on the right here. They're going to have to beat them twice. I don't think you could beat Toledo twice. I don't know that you could beat Buffalo twice. I don't know that you could do all that.
yeah.
Akron's not bad.
There are some snake pits in this league, but one of them is Akron, and it is hard to win at Akron. They went there and did it, but yeah, I mean, they go to Buffalo. Buffalo been a little disappointing this year, but still kind of hard to beat at home. I don't think it's going to be easy going to Kent State. I know that they're not having a spectacular
Bowling Green
year, but
is a tough place to go.
yeah, Bowling
Miami,
Green. And when you look at these teams, like this is a conference that typically has good teams that has a history of eating itself. Not always. I mean, recently Buffalo ran away from the league, got ranked really high, and I think got a 6 seed. But it's not uncommon to see teams win a lot, only lose 1 or 2 games at home. So it's really hard to run away from this conference, no matter how good you are. And it seems like you mentioned what Ohio did last year. This is a conference that probably has more wins as a double-digit seed than anybody else I can think of in the round of 64.
Yeah.
it might, but there is the again alleged upcoming schedule. But let's keep things rolling along here into the MEAC. We got one game in the MEAC. We came in this afternoon. Morgan State, the game that was just scheduled the last minute there, beat Goucher by 59 points. Dorman, got anything for us here, or can we keep going?
We can keep going. I still think Norfolk State's probably the best team in the conference.
Yeah, not to disrespect the MAC, but there is literally nothing on the page.
We might be getting some games Saturday and Monday, but we'll see. We'll see. Let's go past the MEAC over to the Missouri Valley Conference, where we have a team that may not be under the radar next week in Loyola Chicago, up to 28 in the AP poll. Just a few more spots to move up. They'll be above the radar. And just a really good team. Now, they haven't been playing the past week, but still a very good team.
Yeah. Some news for the Missouri Valley, first involving Loyola Chicago directly. They did get a game scheduled with San Francisco. That game's going to be played in Salt Lake tomorrow afternoon. Is that game in Salt Lake City?
In Salt Lake City,
yes.
at a community college. Yeah. It'll be streamed on the West Coast Conference website. That's the only
okay. So they didn't. I knew that CBS Sports might be heading out there, but anyway, that's a pretty big opportunity, really, for both those teams. San Francisco not under the radar, but if they win that one, that would be really good. And a new addition just broke this evening. Murray State will be joining this conference soon.
Yeah, Loyola Chicago on their way out over to the A10. It already announced that Belmont was coming in. Now Murray State coming in, and the talk is there will be a 12th. I've heard UIC. I've heard Texas Arlington. So there's a few names that have been beaten around here.
Carver Bible.
Carver Bible may be coming in there. They may be going to the Ohio Valley to fill all those empty spots at the conference.
Yeah.
Into here in a minute too. There's some of those upcoming games, like Loyola Chicago, Illinois State was off. Loyola Chicago against Colorado State is what will be on here for Thursday. Not on the screen though. That game just getting added.
Oh, which one? Loyola Chicago, Colorado State.
Loyola Chicago, San Francisco. I'm in another world here. Loyola Chicago, San Francisco just getting added in Salt Lake City. Let's just move on before I mess anything else up. Dorman, Northeast Conference.
Interesting situation here. I did not believe Wagner was the class of the conference, but after watching the first 2 months, I certainly feel that way now. There's a lot of losses here, but there are a lot of games against the big boys on the road, so that's why you see a lot of losses for these conference teams. Wagner wins at VCU and at Fairfield. They're only, the loss at Seton Hall, obviously not terrible. If they could have went to Penn State and win That would have been huge. But I like Wagner. I think they're probably a little better than the rest of this conference. They play really, really tough D. They get in your face. They're really going to guard you. They make it hard on the offenses to get in their sets and set up their plays. I'm on the Wagner bandwagon.
Now, one quick note on the standings here. The Northeast Conference is one of two conferences right now, along with the SWAC, that is using a forfeit rule for games that get canceled and cannot get rescheduled. That is why we see something very amazing here with Fairleigh Dickinson. 2-0 in conference, yet 1-10 overall. They have more conference wins than overall wins, and yes, it is because of the fact that there are forfeits that will be
Yeah.
changing those conference standings, making them not line up necessarily with the overall records. Uh, but we will be tracking those as we go forward. Like I said, I think the SWAC is the only other conference I've heard of so far that's going to actually have forfeits. I believe it was the Southland today announced that the commissioner is going to have the power to declare a game a no contest or a forfeit. It'll be up to Tom Burnett to decide based on the circumstances around any games that don't get played. So
Yeah.
could see forfeits out of the Southland as well. There's the upcoming schedule of games that are probably all going to get canceled in the Northeast Conference. But
Yeah.
Griggs, Ohio Valley Conference, which is about to be several teams later, as we just announced.
Yeah.
Murray Stat's way out. Belmont already on its way out. Austin P already on its way out. I think we know that Little Rock is coming in, so at least somebody coming in.
Yeah. And again, when you look at this league, you have two teams that are fringe bubble, perhaps even inside of it, and you have a bunch of sub NIT. And unfortunately for the future of this league, the two the two pillars, I guess, or flag bearers are leaving. It's Belmont and Murray, both with really good profiles. I mean, they're both really good. I think I might actually like Murray's a little bit more. They both have that win against Chattanooga at home. I think the win at Memphis is slightly better, although similar than the win at St.
I'll
Louis.
take the Iona and the Drake wins though.
Those are and then the neutral floor over Iona. These are two. I like both of these profiles. I like both of these teams. I don't think that they're going to lose. It's an 18-game schedule. They play 16 games against teams that are not each other. I think they each go 16-0 in those games.
They very well could. And if that's the case, it's going to come down to if they split with each other. We could be looking at 2-bit OVC.
I think we could be.
If they both finish with one conference loss and then play in the conference title game. Conference does use a ladder, is going back to the ladder format, so they'll both get buys into the semifinals. So I just have to pick up one more win to face each other, but we'll see. They are not scheduled to play each other this week. COVID or no COVID, it's not coming up until next week. I think their first matchup.
Right. So,
how about the Patriot League, Dorman? We actually got some games in this conference. This conference has actually been able to somehow get their teams on the court.
Yeah, Navy's actually been a great story this year. Knocked off Virginia earlier in the year, and they're showing that wasn't a fluke. This team is very solid. It'd be crazy if Army played Navy for a bid. That would be incredibly intense and awesome. Don't know if we'll get there, but that would be really cool. If I had to pick someone right now, it would be Navy, but there's a bunch of teams. Boston, you could make a case for. Boston U's played some really good games. Loyola's actually looked good at times and then looked terrible at others, but this conference to me is up for grabs.
Navy did beat BU Tuesday night here also, so they've got the edge already, head-to-head at least. But the upcoming schedule, again, if we can get some of these games in here, Navy allegedly going to be hosting Bucknell and at Lafayette the next two games. Griggs, how about a conference we do really like a lot, and that is the Southern Conference, which got a lot, which was a ton of fun tonight. There were 5 games, amazingly. Every team got on the court tonight, which was amazing to begin with, and they were all great games.
Yeah, I was super big on Furman, really for much of after the year started, but after the loss to VMI, and I know VMI can be really frustrating to play against. It's just not a style you see very often, but still going to Greensboro and getting the win. I don't think Furman is anywhere close to the bubble, but if they were to win the league, I think they're potentially dangerous in the round of 64. I just love this Chattanooga team. And is there enough there with, teams like Furman to where if they run away from the conference, they can get inside the bubble?
Well, I'll bring up the profile here. They did get swept in that OVC trip to Belmont and Murray. Have the win at VCU. We'll see how well that holds up, but they're going to have to do the. I think they have to do the undefeated conference type of thing, or very close to it, to get the
Yeah.
consideration, because there's no big piece of meat, and any loss you have in this conference is going to be likely a tier 3 or tier 4 loss.
Yeah, some are worse than others, but you're right about that. We've seen this. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. It may have been the last non-COVID tournament we had. Wofford got a 7 seed out of this league, so it can be done.
We had Greensboro just miss out on making the field,
Yeah.
and yes, it's possible, but I don't know. I think if Chattanooga could have split those 2 games against the OVC teams, they'd be in a lot better shape.
Yeah.
Here's the upcoming schedule. As far as we know, with all 10 of these teams having played tonight, all these games on the screen are on here as of the moment. So we can take a look at Chattanooga, going to be hosting Citadel and at Western Carolina.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can get all these games in. Wofford at East Tennessee State. Greensboro is going to be at VMI. But let's jump over to the SWAC next. And Dorman, we've got a few games that got played here. A few more of these are forfeit wins already. I think there's another forfeit announced already that might be for one of the games coming up this weekend. So I don't even know what to say.
Southern University actually is putting together a nice season. A lot of those losses are to big time power schools, but give Southern a lot of credit. They have not been exactly a basketball power. They've struggled to win games year in and year out, but all of a sudden they're winning games. I thought they were going to stumble either earlier tonight or yesterday. They went out and had another solid win. I believe it was Texas Southern, and they're playing good ball.
And Texas Southern always the class of this conference, and that's huge. When you beat Texas Southern, that's showing that you're up there.
Yeah, and I thought that was an interesting game. It was the conference opener, but I thought that those are the 2 best teams, Southern and Texas Southern. Texas Southern's record is not that impressive, but it's been a lot of road bye games, and they did get one really impressive win in Florida. So that was a big deal, Southern beating them. I think it's a 2-horse race between those 2, and Southern just broke to an early lead.
Yep, there's Southern. Jackson State, I just pulled over. They had a real close game with somebody recently. It was Louisiana Tech, Drake. They had a lot of close losses in their non-conference. They're another team. If you look at the metrics, they're kind of up there. Keep an eye on this Jackson State team once they start playing. Again, a lot of these games are going off, so I just throw them up on the screen, and keep moving. On that note, though, let's jump over, Griggs, to the Summit League.
Okay, love this league.
South Dakota State picked up a huge win at North Dakota State. Always a difficult road trip, and
rivalry game there. And South Dakota State, I don't want to say they were disappointing. They are 10-4 against D1 opponents, but I think we thought, or at least I did, that this was potentially a top 50-ish type team that could make a run at the bubble. I guess maybe they still could. I like a lot of teams in this league. Oral Roberts gone on a little bit of a run after kind of being disappointing.
They had Denver and Omaha at home, so
and they beat them.
Okay, yes. But can we talk though, Dorman? Western Illinois, we were so high on this team. And what has happened? The wheels falling off. They get blown out by a team that's transitioning up from Division III, St. Thomas.
Never in the game. They were down 25 right off the bat and never even got close. I'm with you. I was singing their praises on our podcast the first month of the season. They were off to a great start. I think it was 7 or 8-1. They were playing great ball, and everything has gone wrong for them. They are absolutely ice cold. And like you said, they just went to St. Thomas and were never in the game. So they better turn this around quickly, or they're going to be, again, another year without the tournament, as they're one of the teams in D1 that's never been to the tournament. but I am going to give South Dakota State a little love here. They're playing great basketball. Like you said, that North Dakota State road game is tough. Rivalry, and they went in there and played really good basketball. They were prepared. They shot really well and defended. And I see South Dakota State right now as playing the best ball in the Summit.
Yeah. When you look at Western Illinois, right if we were singing their praises last time, they had that Denver Omaha road trip, which is the easiest road trip in the conference.
Yeah.
Barely snuck by with a win at Denver, lost the game at Omaha. Then they had a road trip to Iowa that they got blown out on. Okay, it's Iowa.
Yeah.
Then you have the St. Thomas loss. That's the 3-game losing streak. I mean, that makes me want to fall right off the bandwagon here.
Yeah.
Yep.
A little bit. This deserves a mention on the other side of this. This St. Thomas team coming up from D3. I want to say back in October, back then, before the season started, when we're sort of getting everything together, we debated, would St. Thomas even be eligible for the centenary, because it just wouldn't be fair to give it to what's virtually a D3 team. They've won 5 D1 games. I didn't think they win 5 T1 games in their first 2 years of transitioning combined.
Yeah, I mean, the transfer portal has helped with things like this too, but they do have players on this team, a handful of them that were on that D3 team, and which is a non-scholarship level of basketball.
Yes.
It's like a team full of walk-ons suddenly becoming a contender in its conference. It's
I don't want to get too carried away. I don't think they're a contender, but like they're certainly not going to lose every game. They
host Oral Roberts and Kansas City allegedly over the course of the next week. We'll see what happens. South Dakota State has a scheduled home game against South Dakota, big rivalry. South Dakota has been in a shutdown for a while, so if the Yotes are back on, hopefully that game will get played.
Yeah.
But let's we got a couple more conferences here. Greg's the Sun Belt, where we've got now Louisiana and Texas Arlington at 2-0. Yeah, this is just a conference that I honestly can't figure out, because I think we got 12 teams that can contend for. Maybe we have 13 or 14 teams that could win this conference. There's only 12 in it.
It is really early, but it feels a little upside down right now. Like the teams that I kind of had my eye on coming in the conference play: Texas State, South Alabama, Coastal, and none looking all that good in their first conference openers.
I'll say Louisiana, probably the only team that I was looking at a little bit that did look good. Pick up the sweep at Appalachian State, at Coastal Carolina, at Dorman. Maybe that's a team we got to that we got to look at least for what we saw in the first week of conference play here.
Yes, I agree with you. They look good over the last couple weeks there, and they definitely have a chance to be right in the thick of this, because I'm with you guys. This conference, the Sun Belt, is like David said, upside down. I don't really know what to make of it. I was high on Troy for a while there. Scott Cross has done a really nice job, one of Jamie Dixon's top assistants for a while. I was
outstanding coach.
Yes, great coach. So I think Troy is still Troy will still be heard from in the Sun Belt this year.
I'll tell you what, this is what, if you remember the Sun Belt last year, same thing happened. You'd suddenly have a team go and pick up 2 or 3 really good road wins in conference, then lose a home game in conference play to the last place team. It seems for a couple of years now, the Sun Belt has been, very, very strange. Just anybody can beat anybody else on any given night in this league. It seems.
It feels like
it's been very weird. But Dorman, last conference here in terms of the regular conference at least is the WAC, full of 3 ineligible teams here. But more importantly, we've got 4 teams out to undefeated starts, and from Abilene down to Grand Canyon. Abilene with a nice week with the road sweep of the Utah teams at Utah Valley, at Dixie State. We haven't really talked about them much this year. They were a tournament team last year out of the Southland. Should we be talking about them?
I absolutely think so. Like you said, they beat Utah Valley in Utah Valley. There's been some good teams to go in Utah Valley this year and come out a loser. So BYU. I do believe BYU. Thank you. Abilene Christian is well in the conversation. And call me crazy, I'm excited for this. New Mexico State, Abilene Christian, Grand Canyon, and Utah Valley. 4 teams that are going to make this conference. Very exciting.
Yeah. And you
Don't forget,
hate that.
you've got some name brands like Stephen F. Austin in there.
Yeah.
Seattle has been improved. They haven't played a conference game yet. So I think there's more to look at here below that even.
Yeah, they are losing Chicago State after this year.
They are losing Chicago State. They are also losing several teams to Conference USA coming up as part of the newest batch of
Yeah,
realignment. That we know New
Sam
Mexico State
Houston, New Mexico
and
State, who's
are on their way out.
yeah,
So this conference, and there's a few more teams that are coming in. So we know Incarnate
yeah.
Word not going to help much in terms of basketball. But Southern Utah is also coming in, which will help basketball. So this conference is going to change a lot over the next few years, but I think it's going to be an interesting year this year because I don't think New Mexico State, for example, is head and shoulders above the rest of this league, even though they probably are the most talented team.
They
in the
are
conference.
talented.
Uh, there is the alleged upcoming schedule. We've got the possibly tomorrow night we could have that Stephen F. Austin Abilene Christian game if that goes. That is a Southland Conference game that's being played in the WAC. but
Yeah,
New Mexico State, I don't even know where they are. They're scheduled for a game at Lamar. I'm not certain if that game is a go or not. We don't know about any of these games. That's it for the. Well, how about checking in on our mythical conferences?
yeah. We got to do that real
Okay.
quick.
All right. Front Range Conference. We had a big Front Range game the other night. Colorado State
Yeah.
over Air Force, 67-59.
Yeah, to stay unbeaten, and Air Force shorthanded, but these Front Range rivalries, you got to throw the record books out the window, and Air Force actually did hang in there.
We could have
Air Force was game for this. Air Force was in that game. Game.
We could have a developing story unless it somehow happens in a postseason tournament, NIT, NCAA, or the like. Colorado may not be playing a Front Range game this year.
Yeah, which is
and
odd.
I don't know if that means we have to throw them out of the Front Range.
Yeah, they used to play everybody. I forget 4 or 5. It's on, it's off. It's on, it's off. I guess it depends on who's coaching there, but I don't know. Now they don't seem to be open to playing all of the Front Range opponents like they used to.
There's the upcoming schedule for these teams. We don't see any Front Range games this week. We will have a few more before the season's over. Let's go to the state of Utah, though. The Beehive Conference, where everybody has got some conference play in. In fact, everybody other than Utah has a win already in the conference.
Yeah. And is Utah not playing? Are they just doing BYU and that's it?
That's it. But they lost. Utah, at least they could stay in the Front Range. They're just last place.
Yeah.
They're done.
Right. Yeah. Utah finishing last in the Beehive. They used to always play Utah State, and we were too. But
it did not happen this year. There's the upcoming schedule for these teams. I don't know that we actually have any conference games.
Dixie State, Utah Valley. Yes, we do.
Oh, there it is. Dixie State. If it happens Saturday, you could circle that game Saturday, game of the day. Dixie State, Utah Valley. It is a Beehive Conference game. Huge. Utah Valley could move it to second place tie with Southern Utah if they could pick up that win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Big deal.
Under the radar top 10. This is our top 10 list here for January 5, 2022. Our first top 10 list. Let's go to some honorable mentions. Teams getting votes that did not quite make the top 10. We have Monmouth, James Madison, Grand Canyon, Louisiana Tech, and
Carver Bible getting a vote this week. Yeah.
Carver Bible sitting here at 0-20 on the season. They did lose their game against Liberty. Their final D1 game got canceled, but they also lost one of their non-D1 games. They still have 3 more games left, 3 more non-D1 games left. But
for now, we're going to work to try and get them more games. We've learned a lot about this. Their enrollment is 67. Is that
37.
Right? 37
people enrolled in this school. They have one individual who serves as athletic director, men's basketball coach, and women's basketball coach.
Yes.
You've got to figure that between the men's basketball team and the women's basketball team, all 37 students are on the basketball team.
Yes. And it's like, is this going to turn out to be like Open Bible, to where they go there to investigate and there's nothing there?
There's a real school there. We've done the school's actually been around for about 80 years. It's a real school. It's like one floor in a building, but it's a real school.
They have degrees that they offer. They have that.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
I don't know about scholarships, but that might be asking a lot. We're tied for ninth place here between Oakland and North Texas. Tie for ninth place there. But that North Texas team out of the Conference USA, they're new to the top 10 this
Yeah.
week.
We talked about them a little bit. So I like
Coming
that
in
North
eighth place, we have Chattanooga. We just spoke about them out of the Southern.
Yeah.
Seventh, we got New Mexico State out of the WAC.
Mm-hmm.
At sixth place, we have Ohio U out of the
Ohio, wait,
Mid-American.
they're pretty far up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we move to our top 5. At number 5, we have UAB.
Ooh,
out of
UAB
Conference
way
USA.
up there.
Yes.
Wow. I
Moving
didn't
up the
vote them
stands
that high.
for the Blazers. And at number 4, Murray State. Team
I think we all know who I don't know the order, but it's Murray, Belmont.
And Belmont is number 3. At number 2, Loyola Chicago only coming in at number 2, which means that our number 1 team here is, I think we need a little drum roll here. Maybe Iona Gales.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yes, they are the number 1 team. Surprisingly, I think both of you had Iona 1. I think I had Loyola number 1, but
no, I know I did. So
yeah. So Dorman, you made Iona number 1. You liked Iona better than Loyola.
I did.
I liked them both a lot, but yeah.
And a great showing by the Ohio Valley, Belmont, Murray State, and I'm with David. Both as in my bracket as at large as if something were to fall off as of earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go ahead and pull this down here, and I guess at this point we can run to any other final thoughts from both of you. Dorman, let you take it.
I'll go on with the Belmont and the Murray State. I just am a fan of this conference. I'm a fan of these two teams. These two teams play great basketball. They're well coached and they're defensive minded. I'm the committee, the men and the women need to stop looking at the ACC conference. Forget what conference they play and watch the games. These two teams are great basketball teams. I know the middle of the ACC they love and this and that, but not this year. Look at the teams. Don't tell me about the eye test. These mid-majors, I don't like the term, are good, real solid basketball schools, teams. Please, committee, watch the games. You'll see how good these teams are.
Absolutely. And I think they do watch the games. And I think if Belmont and Murray do what we discussed that they could possibly do, which is just lose to each other, I think it's a 2-bit OVC. Something great up this conference tournament. We could be talking 3-bit OVC.
Right.
But I think it would mean somebody would have to beat Belmont and Murray on back-to-back nights, which is not exactly going to happen. But Griggs, you want to finish out the show?
Yeah, this is sort of a loaded final thought, and it is more thinking than maybe what's reality. But with
forget it. Oh,
guys, no, this is actually relevant.
Yes, we have the buzzer back, everybody.
With the buzzer back. Well, okay. My first thought is that I hate the damn buzzer because you only use it on me. But wait, that one's new. Now you're just pulling up.
The technology on this podcast.
Yeah.
We have upgraded. This is Hoops HD Plus. But go ahead, Griggs.
Well, before I could get on to my very important final thought here, we've been having a lot of games canceled, and I think there were 17 or 18 today, whatever it was. It may have ended up being more by the end of the day, and that's not an unusually high number given the last couple weeks. If we get on the other side of this quickly, and the optimistic people in the medical world are saying that is a possibility, maybe even a probability. Is February going to feel like November to where it's just every day you're just slammed with so many games? It might, with all the makeup games. So we could be ending up, if you're looking for a silver lining to all this, with a very exciting February. And here's something to think about. These top 10 teams, Ohio U and UAB, and certainly Iona and Loyola, and these under the radar teams that could find themselves on or inside the bubble, would they be better served not making up their conference games and then instead just playing one or two fewer conference games and looking for a heavyweight opponent that's also looking for a game in an attempt to boost their resume, even if it means scheduling each other?
I'll tell you.
Yeah, go ahead, Shane.
I will respond to that briefly here. Is one of the things is that the conference is most of the conferences do control some of that scheduling to an
Yes.
extent, and they want the games to be made. And I'm going to go above the radar here, but uh, both Colorado State and Arizona ended up freed up this weekend because of their opponents canceling their games. Uh,
Yes.
it was very close to what I heard that they were actually going to be playing each other on Saturday until the Mountain West came in and scheduled Colorado State to play San Diego State instead. That's still going to be a really good Mountain West game
Yeah.
scheduled at the last minute, but we almost had a very, very good non-conference game
Right.
that we lost
The,
out on.
the the conferences do control that. You're right. If you're a competent conference commissioner, say it's the Metro Atlantic or the Ohio Valley or someone like that, where you have Conference USA, how do you feel about, instead of playing a conference game, letting your flagship team try and get a bigger win? Because it's in your best interest, if you're a conference commissioner of an under the radar league, to get a team inside the bubble.
I
It's
agree
just a
with you.
thought. You
I
said
agree.
final thought. That's,
I think that
yeah,
the conferences are probably going to put priority on trying to get their conference games
I
played
think
this
you're
fall.
right. But it's a final thought. It is something to think about.
Yeah. And then the commissioners also, I agree with you 100%, David. They should be throwing these teams up there to another great mid-major team, but they're also the commissioner of the team at the bottom of the league, and they got to worry about them, and they want them to get their games. And I agree with you 100%, but unfortunately, the commissioners are also worried about all the teams.
Yeah. Are you really going to tell Canisius they can't get a home
Right,
game against Iona this year because
right.
you'd rather have Iona go and play a game
Well,
uh,
sure. I'll tell them.
at Ohio U?
Yeah. Give me the phone. I'll call them.
On that note, though, I do want to thank everybody for joining us. We're going to be back. We'll be recording our first bracket rundown show of the season tomorrow night, so check that out. We've got a slightly new format for that show that we haven't done before. But on behalf of David Griggs and David Dorman, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. We'll be talking to you again real soon.